Hello friends, it is I, Lucid Lupus. I apologize for my absence for the past year. It's been very busy and hectic, but I am now back with brand new content for you guys that I'm sure you will enjoy. To kick this video off, I will be featuring my good friend Jensen. He does horror narrations. I will leave his YouTube channel in the link in the description below, and I wanted to thank him for joining me in this brand new video. And I'm sure you guys will love his content too. Now, enough of my jibber jabber. Let's get right into the video. When I was 8 years old, I went to the pool in the beginning of the summer with my sisters and sat down on the pool bench. This guy, about 11 years old, lay down next to me and said, "You're beautiful. Will you go out with me?" My sisters thought it was funny and kind of let it go, but he creeped me out. He gave me this odd sort of vibe. But every time I went to the pool, he was there too, telling me how pretty I was and asking me to go out with him, introducing me to his disabled grandmother, who brought him to the pool. One day this girl came up to me and asked me if Chris was bothering me. I said that I didn't really care, and she rolled her eyes and joked about how he used to ask her out too, and that she was glad he'd found someone else to pine over. The girl Elizabeth started hanging out with me when I went to the pool, which was almost every other day, since I was only allowed to go by myself. She explained that she and Chris were good friends from a different neighborhood, but came to our pool because it was bigger and had much more room for his grandmother's work on her physical therapy for her legs. We became great friends and laughed about how Chris was always following us around and asking me out. But one day, I noticed that he followed me all the way back to my house and tried to hide behind a mailbox when I saw him. As funny as it is, that really creeped me out. I began to notice that he was getting more aggressive and annoyed with me for refusing to date him. He started asking me to go on walks with him through the park and brought his grandmother, so I didn't feel like I could say no. He would take me to the woods or behind the jungle gym, out of sight from his grandmother, and make creepy comments about my body and touch my cheek while telling me how pretty I was. He continued to follow me home, even when I took shortcuts through the woods or the long way that led in circles. His presence began to make me nervous, because I wasn't sure what would happen if I continued to turn him down. Finally, during the last week the pool was open, I went to the bathroom. The bathrooms are a bit off to the side of the pool and closed off with a large, heavy metal door, so kids don't sneak in and vandalize it at night. The second I entered, the door shut behind me and the lights turned off. Then I heard Chris say, "I'm not letting you out until you agree to go out with me. You're mine." And then he locked the door. The bathroom was cold and pitch black, and I was terrified of the dark at the same time. The tile was the disgusting, slimy, wet feeling that the towel gets when it's wet, with the bits of dirt and sand on it, which is why I never liked going in there in the first place. It also smelled like chlorine and a typical subpar public restroom, stuff of nightmares of an 8-year-old. I started banging on the door and screaming for help, but no one could hear me because of the really heavy door and the location. But then the angry soccer mom started screaming at me to stop pranking her and how much trouble I was in. Turns out that she'd been locked in too, and was mad that while she was peeing, the lights turned off. She called for help and I was let out of the bathroom. Being 8, I didn't think about it much, but now I realize how creepy the whole situation was. I probably should have told someone the first time he followed me home.
I died 8 years ago. It wasn't particularly tragic or unusual. Just a car accident. I don't blame the man who hit me. He was speeding because his wife was in labor, and there was black ice on the road. He lost control of the car, and I lost my life. It's not his fault. I know that. I'm not cruel, and I'm not vengeful. If anything, I'm the opposite. You see, I don't have any family left, and I had lost my few friends around that time. When it was time for my funeral, the only people who came was my boss and the family who killed me. The wife held her newborn daughter close to her chest. I hated my boss, and the cemetery was awfully lonely, so I followed the family home. Lily may as well have been my own flesh and blood. She was sweet and bright, and oh so very small. She had trouble sleeping if someone wasn't rocking her crib, and her parents were so tired. They had put her to bed. It was easy for me to rock the crib for her. I didn't get tired. I could help her. As the years passed, Jack and Lori realized they weren't alone in the house. It didn't take long from there to make the connection between my funeral and when I had shown up, and I'd never been malevolent, so they weren't afraid or angry. They started to burn candles on the anniversary of my death day. They left an empty chair for meals and holidays. I felt really like a member of the family. Someone is trying to force the door. It's Lori's ex. He's obsessive, he's angry. He's going to hurt the family. My family. The thing about ghosts is that the more offerings you get, the stronger you become. I've been enjoying candles, trinkets, and even the occasional food item for the past 5 years. I was strong from that. The knife feels warm in my hand, a shock of heat against the ice of my skin. Lori, Jack, and Lily are my family. I care about them, and they're not going to join me yet.
I went out on a late evening walk with my dog. I've never had any issues before it was late in the afternoon, but had an hour or so of sun left. We passed by a park and headed down the wooded walking path. As we're walking, I noticed a drone flying above my head, just moving around, but I didn't really pay mind to it because my brother has one, so I'm used to them. Not thinking too much of it, we continue walking and I keep one earbud put in just in case. The drum seems to be buzzing around near us and very close behind my head. I try to ignore it. Some kid must be trying to see how close he can get, but I don't mind since I know I can't really be harmed by the little thing. After a while, it's off again, leaving us alone. We get on a clearer path and I put my earbud back in, listening to my music. I unleash my dog so she can run up on the hill up ahead for a bit. Her favorite part of our walks. We walk for some time before I hear the low buzzing once again. I pull out an earbud and look around. I can hear it, but I can't see it. I know it's not moving that far away. It sounds as steady. I call my dog back and put her back on the leash because I fear the drone might scare her and make her run off, or the kid might try and chase after her. We continue our walk and the drone is flying over our head. Followed us a quarter mile on the walking path. I still can't see the person controlling it. I move under some trees for a few moments and lay low, and the drone flies away after buzzing about looking for us. If you've been around them as often as I have, you know the sound of them moving side to side, forward and up and back and down. It's definitely sounded like it was trying to look for something. Maybe us. But the brush was too thick and too low for them to chance it. Off it flew. I decided the sun would set soon and we should probably head back home before it gets dark. Turning around, we headed back down the walking path. No drone, but 3 skater teens walking and skating down the paved path. I move off the path, letting them skate past. They do tricks as they walk by. Simple teenager stuff. I pass a turnoff on my left, and so does the drone on a separate path that is divided by the dense bushes. They go down the further path, and I walk on with my dog, but stop to remove a sticker from my shoe. That's when I see that the teens had turned back at some point and now stood behind the bushes, leading to the unpaved path. It was odd. They passed it and seemed like they would have headed down the walking path, but no. They stopped walking back and now stood there, hiding almost, just watching. I can only see one for the brief moment that my side glance took. I was now more aware. First the drone, now this. It seemed too off to ignore. My dog, who normally pulls me forward on the leash, now walked right behind me, nervous. She knew I was on edge. We walked back. I kept casually looking about. I lost sight of the kids. I decided they must have gone down the other path. I passed the park. Still no drone. More people were there, so I felt more at ease. My dog began to lead the way back home again. Half of the way there, I spot something out of the corner of my eye. One of the teens walking 20 feet to my left, behind some brush. He must have cut across the field. Dangerous due to snakes, spiders, and God knows what else lies there. It seems odd. Way too off, and I can't see the 2 other boys. I pull my phone out and call my brother. I start talking to him and telling him how close I am to home, and about my walk. He doesn't seem to understand too much, but I glance back. The kid is gone. I keep a clear eye out for them and finally get home. I tell my brother why I really called him. He told me next time to be careful and take my gun because this just couldn't have been a weird coincidence. Right? You may never know, and I don't really want to know what would have happened if I stayed in those woods even longer.